Welcome back to a new episode of Planet Coaster. In this episode, 2 buildings will be completed. One is the building we didn't finish in the last episode, and the other, as you can see in the thumbnail, is a dining area. But I'll get to that when the time comes. As you can already see, the building becomes narrower from about halfway up, so that the entire future city also has some air at the top and isn't so full of buildings. Now I copy the building part to the second building and have to adjust it a little bit, because even though these buildings are supposed to be the same, the second building is a little bit shorter than the main building. Making it narrower from about halfway up has the advantage of giving the building some structure, and it also looks a little nicer than if it were just a uniform block at the top. It also adds another connection to the building, although as you can see, it is a bit fanciful, which is meant to emphasize that this is something that will only exist in the future. Why parts of this corner of the building are suddenly missing is a bit unclear to me. Well, the connection between the 2 buildings is designed in a corner, because it's not really something like that nowadays. At first it was just a little idea of mine, but then it looked quite good. So now I'm going to implement it permanently, which means I'm going to expand it to the size of 2 window modules stacked on top of each other, and give it a roof and a floor. Before the roof is built, a wall unit is quickly rotated to better fit the dimensions of the roof. For the sake of appearance, I raised the building by 1 floor and added a roof before we got to the roof decorations, and to make sure the roof fit directly when copying, I counted the length of the small building and then selected and copied the roof modules in the correct size. Building has air ducts on both sides of the roof, which gives it a cool look. It may look a little weird at first, but wait until I finish creating it. On the connector that goes around the corner, I converted part of a spaceship into an antenna to make the roof look less empty. On the larger building, defense towers are placed in opposite corners, which will be used as house decoration and is needed for something on this building. I added a little detail to the building I got from the Steam workshop, so that it fits a little more into this town. And also so that it looks more like me, so that it looks like my creation, even if I only made it out of decoration. Before I can even finish it, the building I have just created is placed from the inside with many, and by that I really mean many, light sources. And as you can imagine, lighting like this can be tedious. At best, the lights should be placed evenly, and given the size of the building, that's not the easiest thing to keep track of. You also don't want to spend too long at the light sources. Great, building 1 is finished. All that's missing is the connecting piece and the second tower that needs to be illuminated, although it can be said that the connecting piece is quick if you don't make a fool of yourself. We have now reached the second part of the building with the lighting. Now we just need to place the light sources in this building before we can start building another building. Work is now continuing on the start of another building, which will be a dining area on the bottom floor, made up of the paneled wall elements. In the next episodes, a glass building will be built above it. At the beginning, I planned to build the building separately, so it wouldn't be connected to the wall at the back, so it would stand alone. And that's how I'm going to build the walls of the new building. While I was building the facade, I noticed that the path was not parallel to the wall and thus to the new building. At first, I wanted to touch it by simply building the wall a little further away from the path. But you'll see how I solved that later, because before that I put up the first booths in the dining area, and while I wanted to put the booths in the room, I realized that there wasn't enough space, and that the building should be connected to the wall at the end, because then there would be more space for the dining area. so that the wall by the toilets doesn't look so strange and the toilets are also somewhat shielded. I put some souvenir shops in the building so that it is more hidden and not so intrusive in the dining area. And now that the souvenir shops are in place, the shop wall elements will be placed to make the whole look more harmonious. Once this is done, this area will be extended upwards by 4 meters height walls before it finally gets a ceiling. But before that, the path in the building will be adjusted, because the path to the plaza in the building simply did not fit, so the path will be deleted. The building will also be extended to the correct length, so that there is room for the path. And only then will the design of the plaza be taken care of again. So that the tables are all in a row and not crisscrossed, I created a guideline with the art objects so that the tables can be arranged in order. Of course, I could just put tables one after the other like in the spaceship and delete every other table, but then there might only be 2 tables per row. So here they are a little closer together, so there are more tables in the room. In addition, I thought that robots could take over the operation and function these spaceship repair robots to operate Robotower. To visualize it better, I got something from the Steam Workshop. And so everything is adjusted table by table, row by row, so that the robot has room to deliver the food to the tables. Before the park path continues, more robots are placed in front of it. For the park path, I try to build it more or less parallel in manual construction, so that it is consistent with the buildings again. Then it is also connected to the building and I can continue with the design of the building itself. Reconnecting the paths also took some work, as the stairs didn't want to work the way I had planned. Also, the connector had to be adapted because it went through the building and people didn't have to go through any walls, so that was adapted quickly as well. Then I dared to try the stairs again and got a result that I liked. Because the way it was before, half with steps and the other half a sloping one without steps, looked more than ugly. But before the building can really get started, I use the terrain tool to make sure there are no edges at the transitions, just a smooth transition. And now, as promised, we continue with the buildings. As teased earlier, the wall is raised and then a corner is pulled in. First the outer walls were raised, then the inner walls as well. And as you can see, this building was originally supposed to be this small.
Don't be surprised if there's a slight change in voice, because this kind of video has already made me reach the daily limit of the voice maker twice. And since I don't want to wait another day, the ChatGPT continues now. In order to make the toilet building less conspicuous, I'm going to cover it with art objects so that it's no longer noticeable, and I'll show you later what I've come up with for the building. Now that you have a direct comparison, which voice do you find better? Now I'm getting to the ceiling that I'm going to put in. And as I was putting the ceiling in, I realized, as I mentioned earlier, that I can build the building higher. So I'm already taking the first steps towards that. And I'm just kind of hinting at it in this episode. Smaller details are now added to the toilets to make them more visually integrated into the building, and the toilet sign is also added. Hier ist der Text, den du angegeben hast. And now, as announced, the building will be expanded, even if it's only hinted at now, so that I know what I wanted to do here in the later episodes. I've already hinted at the size in the second floor. I used the paneled wall to level out the height between the building and the terrain, so that I can then build the glass facade without any height difference. Now I'm taking care of the exterior decoration of the building because it's a bit bare. And so I tried different things to decorate the building, even if it was originally meant for something else. As long as it looks cool, fits the building, and doesn't look out of place, it's all good. Signs are put up so you can see from the outside what the building is about and as decoration. Even if there is no nuclear power regeneration there, I still put it up as a nice decoration. Lights and light sources are also installed on the buildings to ensure that the path is illuminated at night. To ensure that the walls are not bare on the sides, they are also equipped with windows and a door so that the wall gains more structure. While I was able to place large windows on the big walls, smaller windows are installed below the glass facade on the smaller walls. This is intended to add more structure to the building and prevent the walls from looking so empty. Initially, this path was planned without a fence, but after adjusting a few things such as smoothing the transition, it now includes a fence leading to the door. Now the large windows are also copied to the other side, and the small windows are copied to all four sides. I think you can definitely notice a difference, even if it's just windows, whether there are windows on the facade or not. Now the decorations in the dining area begin. With the air hoses, even though they are not necessary, I make it look more futuristic. Additionally, I also play around with some assets here, such as more spaceship parts, and I decorate the walls with fiber optic panels and air ducts to ensure they are not so bare. As you can see, I had no idea what it should look like and clicked through the assets wildly until I found something that might work. Of course, I also decorated the shops with sci-fi awnings, just like with the XXXL spaceship, to emphasize the futuristic look as mentioned. When I was decorating this wall, I realized that I should also install lights in the dining area. In all the decorating, I almost forgot about it, and before I completely forget or can no longer integrate it later, I pause the decoration temporarily so that I can illuminate everything. Because I wanted to place the lights at this height, I need to adjust the air duct to the correct height so that it does not collide with the light and other things. On this wall, I am only installing simple air ducts to avoid overcrowding the wall. For that, additional fiber optic panels and more lights will be placed on the other walls. And what more is there to say? On the remaining walls, lights and decorations will be placed. There's nothing more noteworthy. So I will say goodbye with the final scenes. How did you find today's version of the video? At the commander's request, I tried to make it as if I were speaking directly into a microphone. What do you prefer? The way I've always done it, which involves significantly less work for me, or the way I did it today, which means I have to put many times more effort into video editing?